Hey, Fitzy here, back at it again with another one. Don't this look lovely? Yeah. I did a whole bunch of modifications in this one here to make that work. And some of it, the modifications didn't work, and I had to do more modifications, and I had to cut out half of what I did. But hey, that's all a part of building projects, isn't it? Especially something like this. Anyway, stick around. So, we're back on the VIC100. Let's see what our plans are going to be for this one. I'm going to see if I can get this mounted on that. Now, the thing with it is, I have a number of things I got to look into. I have to, right here I got the wiper motor that mounts in this here. I want to retain that. I got to have wipers on this vehicle, but I have some rust repair that got to be done here, rust repair that got to be done over here. And right here as well. But I'm not concerned about that. I also want to weld over these holes here because I don't need that vent hole there for that. What I'm going to do first, though, is I want to get this fitting on the machine and everything cut out of the way so I can figure out how everything's going to work. The biggest thing for me is these wipers. I haven't cut a lot of the car up to make the wiper motor work, and I want to figure out how I'm going to do it. I've, after looking at a couple of different guys, is after doing wiper motors in these, and the biggest issue I'm going to run into is because of where I want my dash. I want to lower this cab enough that the dash is level with the base of the actual windshield frame like it was originally from factory. That entails this cab being a lot lower than most guys are building them. So what I got to do here first is I got to take a whole bunch of measurements to figure out where the height of this is going to be. How far below the chassis is this going to be? Now, this here is a straight line, is parallel. This chassis here is parallel. This is the parallel section of the car. Everything runs off of that. So I'm going to be building the frame, the cab. I'm going to be making it parallel off of this here. That's where the frame is going to go. The bottom of the cab. So when I put it on, I got to make sure that it's like not tipped down or tipped back or anything like that. This is going to be my reference point here, the chassis rail. The distance there will be that. So I can actually run off the rockers and stuff like that, make the measurements off the rockers and whatnot. Also, right here, this is where they line everything up. I'll be bringing in the fender to double check it, to lay it in place to make sure. But they line up the pinch weld on the Ford truck cab to this lip here, and this is the distance forward and back. So it's just a matter of making sure that it's centered and that the distance is the height that I want it. I'm not worried about that. There's going to be a major step here on the door with a channel and everything. There's going to be a major channel done on this truck. It's going to run into some issues with stuff, but I'm after that dash, making that dash look right. So I'm going to flip this back down now and start taking measurements and get an idea of where everything is going and what I got to cut out. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find the center of this here, measure from side to side and mark it. And I'm going to go over here and do the same thing here. I'm going to measure from here to here, get the center, mark the center out. I want to find the center. It's a lot easier to start from the center and measure outwards to find your issues than it is to try to measure from here to here and measure from that. So when I go to put the wipers on, I'm going to measure over from the center line to where the wipers are to and cut this out of the way, and measure from the center line over to where the wipers are to and cut this out of the way. I want to take a section out of here, cutting it out all together. I'm not worried about this stuff over here as of yet. We may have to cut it out. This is the reason why I want to get this fitting in place. Once I got this fitting in place and I'm happy where it's to, then I'm going to start doing all the welding and getting all this set up so I can actually mount the cab. I'm going to go ahead now, get this flipped back down and get all the measurements drawn out and see what I can figure out. So I've been busy just taking measurements. I mounted this up along here and I mounted another one over there. Took the measurements between there, divided them by 2, and found my center. So there's my center point there, and I measured everything off of that there. This is a piece of steel I got here. I laid this on top of this section here, which is the base of the actual dash, which mounts right here. This is the actual dash mount, goes here, so that's that height there. So the dash is a little tiny bit higher than that. I measure from here down is what I'm measuring from. And what that'll give me, this point here is the height of the dash. The dash is a little tiny bit higher than it, but that's the way I want it to be anyway. So I measured from here. That would give me my measurement. So what I did then is I wanted my dash to be this height here. Okay, so my dash is going to be right here where I want it to be, just a little bit higher above this. So I measure from here down, and I took that measurement. So when I measure it from here, like when you look at it, it's probably better to look at it this way. I measure from here down to the floor. Now this floor is basically the bottom of the rocker. I'm using this as my measurement from here. So I took that distance there and I measured from here, measure from here down the measurement that I had. What it come out to be is 2 inches below the frame rail right here. So my bottom of my rocker panel, the floor section over here, the floor right here, where that's resting on the floor, would be 2 inches right here. So that's how I figured out my heights there. The front section here is where the cab will go. The back of the cab is right here. I got that drawn out, so that there got to be trimmed and everything got to be done on that. I'm doing that a lot different than what I see most fellas doing it. I have an idea in my head, but I'm glad I got lots of material there left. We'll get to that later. So I know that measurement there. Then I know the measurement that I got is 2 inches below this here. So when I come back here and come down here 2 inches and then come up to here, I will get a measurement from here down 2 inches past the bottom of the frame rail, because I'm using the actual frame as a measuring. And I got, I think it was like 7.5 inches. So I know I got to come back here and come up and cut off 7.5 inches here. And then I got my width, which is basically the distance from here to the other side and the same lip. And that'll have to be cut out of there. That will make my cab sit 2 inches below the frame rail right here. Now, all the problems that you run into, first of all, is the wipers. I took measurements from the center line out on the wipers on the actual truck itself. Over here. I took measurements from here outside to here, went over and drew them on the truck. Took it from here out to here and drew them on the truck. And then you ended up with this section here. This is one line. The other line is right there. So this entire section here, up to here, down to here, has to be removed out of there. That'll give me room for the wiper mechanism. Most fellas cuts the works fit out of it. I'm not bothering with it. I may box this in. I don't know what I'm going to do quite yet. I'm just going to remove this. I might end up cutting it all out of it. I don't know. But I'm going to just remove what I have there first to get that out of the way, so I got room to work on the wipers. Now, here's where the problem runs into with these cabs. Right here, we got this corner. This corner square on these. Over here, we have the heater to deal with. We got this edge here. So it's kind of hard to actually take this edge out of it and to keep this heat vent in here. I was going to go in through the side. I don't know if I'm going to bother with it yet. I was going to cut a hole in this here. This here has a drain of its own, which is right here. This is the drain for it. So any water that gets down inside of here will run out right through here. What I did then is I took a measurement from the floor up to where this starts to turn. See this turn here? I measured from here down to the floor to give myself measurement where this corner starts, to get an idea of how low this section is on the truck itself. When I come over here, that bottom mark is right here. There's the mark right there. Pencil mark, or the marker mark. So all this is in the way. Now I can cut this out of it, but I can't do that on the other side. Over here. I can't cut none of this because there's the mark there. I can't cut none of this. This side is higher than the other side, of course. And so there's a lot more material here that I got to cut out. So what I'm going to do for now is I've already measured it up. Right here, I'm going to cut this corner out here. Take it out of it. Now up here, this section here is still too high. This has to come up about a 1/2 inch. I'm just going to split this through here for now and cut it down through there and have it so I can tap up on this to bring it up if need be to get the cab sitting where I want it to be, and then I'll just re-weld this section here. This got to be raised up. I'm going to have to rework this corner here one way, shape or form to fit the truck. And that's basically where I'm to with everything. So now that I got an idea figured out, all the cuts I got to make, what got to be removed and whatnot. The next thing is I got to figure out is how to get this onto that. But I got to do it in such a way that I can actually take it on and off, because I want to do all the cutting and fitting and get it all figured out so that when I actually put it on, I can actually take it off to weld everything up that I got to weld up on the inside his section here. So when I puts it back on, I haven't got to worry about this here. I can weld all this bottom side up here and over here and then seal it all up or whatever I'm going to do with it. That way I can actually don't have to worry about it. But I'm going to be able to lift it. I got to be able to lift it off and put it on, lift it off and put it on. I can't just be calling the boys every now and again to come down and give me a hand with this. So I've, after looking around now, and I saw one guy that was doing this, and he used one of them and made a brace that went across here that hinged off the actual hoist, and I lifted the cab up and he lay it on, he can lift it up and take it off. So that's what we're going to do first here now before I start cutting everything up to make it fit. I'm going to turn around and make a mechanism for that to lift the cab up in the air. Hopefully it lifts it high enough. I may have to take this down off the rack. I'll cross that bridge. So I'm going to go out, dig out some steel, make up some sort of thing. I'll bring you back. I'm not going to bore you with that because I'm just going to butcher some stuff together. I got plans of just running a couple of pieces of steel across here, some 2x2, that I can actually tab into the actual hoist. And I'm going to put something right here to keep it from sliding from side to side. So I'll go dig all that out, get that made, and I'll bring you back when I get that done. An hour and a half later, boom, this is what I come up with. All this is just the old scrap. This is the piece of steel that I used on the rotisserie or the tipping unit I made for the Toyota. I just cut it up because that's all the steel is. I use this for is making all kinds of stuff. This one here is made up of 3 pieces. So I just want to get 2 same lengths. This is about an old bracket I had kicking around with 2 holes in it. And I just turned around and chopped it up. I never got fancy with it. I used the actual boom to slide through here. Used a couple of washers to space it out. A bit of threaded rod with a nut and bolt on it. That'll be fine. Back here I just spread it out a bit and welded brackets on either end of it. Roughly 3 inches apart. I never really got overly fussy with this. This is a piece of steel that I had 1 inch square stock. I cut it in half. 1 piece for there, 1 piece for there. The way this is going to work is going to jack in the middle and my pinch weld right here. This section of the truck right here. That piece of 1x1 will rest right here. We'll come up against this here, keep it from sliding side to side. And the 2x2 will rest here and here to lift it up. And it'll also lift from here as well because this 1 inch here already sized it all up. This distance here, when that lays that piece of, it's probably a piece of 3/4 what it is. Is that 3/4? Because I don't think it's 1 inch. Yes, 3/4. That's piece 3/4. So that's the reason why that fits up there right nice. That'll fit there and bring up in that, and then the 2x2 will rest on that. So that's what I got rigged up. That'll go on the hoist there now. I don't know how good it's going to work. Biggest problem I got, as I know, is the front of this cab is heavier than the back. So I got to find a happy medium to where that's going to sit to be where I want it to be. So I'm just going to go ahead now and get this lifted up in the air a bit so I can get the jack underneath it, the hoist underneath it, get the hoist let down, get the bracket put in place, and see if I can lift this cab up. That's balanced pretty good. I think I can get it on like that. Woohoo! See how it all rigs up there now? You can see the way I got that set up there. Rests on the lip. Goes across. My pivot point's right in the middle. I made sure that the actual lips on the outside were in the same location. So I just had to find out where the center weight was to. And as you can see, that is off center. It's more to the front. It's not in the middle. It's more to the front because of the weight of this. But the height of that there now looks like I got to get it in over that and over the transmission tunnel. Yes, that'll go right in over that. So the first thing I'm going to go at here now is I'm going to lay the dash in place. Put a few bolts in it just to hold it in place, just to get it out of the way, and clear out this section here so I can actually start fitting the cab on her. I have to take some measurements back here. I got to see how much higher this is than out here, and that way I got to trim the back middle of the cab right here for that. Make sure I got room for that. And then I got to start trimming up the cab. I got to cut up the sections here, figure out how far apart it's got to be, and then how high it's got to be, cut that out, as well as cut up them two corners. Well, look at the predicament I got myself in here now. Everything moved around here. Trying to get this here in a way that I'm clearing these beams, these here, so I can get in as high as I can, go in over and come forward. I got myself in some predicament here. I'm lucky everything's on wheels here, so that's an advantage. I got the dash laid back in place, and I got a couple of screws put in there. You can see the height of the dash here now, and I was a bit concerned about something, and because I was almost 3 inches down here, and I said it's just too much, and I just knocked it down to 2 inches below the frame rail, and then I was measuring off the top of this brace here. But when you look at this here, this is another inch above that, so I think I'm good. I'll know when I lay it in place now whether it's the right height. Like I like to have this here, this part of the dash here, lining up with this section here, right along here. That's where I like for the dash to be, because a lot of these, they mount them and they're extremely low, and they got this pad going across here, and I never ever liked that look. And the dash looks off center. It doesn't look like it's belonging to the truck, and I'm trying to make it look like it's in the right position of the truck. So now I got to start trimming a few things. I got to trim off these corners here, possibly. I might just leave them alone for now, and I can trim them after the fact. But I got to make sure I got clearances for that, and I got clearances for this to go down the full 7 inches below this here. Up front here, then I got to cut these sections here out. All I'm going to do for now is I'm going to cut these sections, these corners out here, remove them out of the way altogether, go in so far, cut the bottom out of it. Get that out of the way on both sides. I'm not going to cut this section here yet. So I'm going to go ahead now, start taking some measurements back here. Figure out, make sure the middle is good, and the other side, and get this here cut out of the way, so I know then that there is good enough for clearances on the back, and do the same with the front. So they are cut out. Now a lot of people cut these, just cuts a little notch out of them, on the end of them. I'm not worried about that, because the actual floor tips down here, and they notch this wide here. Problem I had with this one here is that I had a lot of rust on the bottom side of this cab, so I just cut it up, cut it straight across. I'll worry about that. As long as it fits down over the outside of the frame rail, I'll fill everything else in later on. Now, onto the front section. So there's rubber 2. You see how much of it I cut out? And this is the piece that I cut out here. There's rust on both sides, right along here. This is inside the panel, look. This part you don't see. Everything on the inside is rusty because it's bare metal. Over here, they I cut it out. This is the one that the bottom was bad on it. See the bare metal there along where the actual sealer was put on. Sealer was put on before it was painted. It's pretty wild. That's it, they're cut out. Now that I got this done, I can start test fitting it, but one thing I want to do to make sure is I want to come over here on the Crown Vic. I want to cut away a bit of this corner on both sides. Right here on the corner, I'm going to cut this off. And right here, I'm going to cut the center from here down to about right here. I'm going to cut all that out of it, because that's where the wipers are going. And I got to figure out some way. I got to be able to size it up so when I do get it fitting on, I can look at this and figure out how I'm going to actually go about putting wipers on this thing. I'll get that cut out now, and then we can start test fitting the cab. I cut that out, made short order of that. This metal is different on the inside, isn't it? All the coating and everything on it. This is the stuff they replaced years later and solved that problem. There's the center chopped out of it. Most fellas cuts the works of it out of it and boxes it in. I'm not worried about boxing it in right yet. I just wants to get the clearances there. I also trimmed off the corners up here. As you can see over here, I trimmed them off. I don't know if they're going to interfere with anything, but I cut them off anyway. So now, it's time to fit this on. Now, you didn't think I was going to get that in the first try, did you? I noticed up here, the actual heater box, there's a lip sticking off the heater box. That's bringing up in the cab. I can't move it, it's touching there. So I got to trim that off so the cab can fall down past it. Other than that, I never looked at the other side to see if there's anything clearing over there. But everything back here seems good. So far, still has to come down a bit. You can see it there coming down. Might have to trim some more of that off there, just for clearance purposes. Yep. Over here, well, gotta go over a small bit, so probably enough there. I'm just gonna trim this off and try it again. You can see here, this lip came out around here and it was stuck off about 3/4 of an inch. So I cut it back flush to that. Hopefully that's enough. I've never seen anybody cutting them up, so I'm going to size up a few things inside the box there. Maybe it falls inside the heater when it gets down so far. But yeah, okay, let's test fit this again. So I got my clearances down there now. The problem I got now is right here, which I thought, remember I put a mark on that earlier? But if you're looking through there, you can see that lip in there, and it's bringing up right here. It's bringing up. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to jack it up again, cut this whole section out of the way. I was just going to bend it up, but I think it might be more trouble than it's worth to bend it up. I'll cut it first, through there, and cut it right off and fade it into here, and see if I can bend that up a full inch. And we'll see what it looks like then. Oh, would you look at that? I couldn't wait. I had this cab on and off 10 times. I got the entire corner cut out over here. But that's just it. Make it work. I get the bolt is gone from where the mounting point is. Not worried about it. I'll figure it out later. It's only metal. But if you look across the dash there now, this side here has to come up a small smidgen. Or no, this side has to come down a small smidgen. It's brought up in this thing here. Right here. Got some trimming to do. Just to get that cleared out. I don't need them bumps on. I was going to cut them out, but I never. That'll just bring that down just enough to fix that. And that'll be the height that I'm after then. But yeah, here's the idea of the dash. When you look in through her now, that dash is the same height as the windshield. That's what I wanted. It's a big channel on it. But that's it. I had to cut a lot of this out of it. Over here, I had to cut sections out of this side as well. Up here, underneath. Over there was a lot of cutting to get stuff out of the way. I still got to be concerned about drainage for this and the wipers. I think I got some ideas in my mind what I can do with that. I might be able to access it from out here, the wiper motor, because there seems to be a lot of room. I can get my hand up there. Seems to be a lot of room up there. So I might be able to work something with that. Use that for my access for the wiper motor. But back here on the back, I had to take another 1/2 inch off it. Drop it down. She was sitting a little bit crooked. So I haven't fine-tuned everything. I just wanted to get it where it eyeballed right, and I'll fine-tune it after. This don't look too bad here. I got to play around with that a bit. I'll manipulate that a bit. I probably might even take a section to the doorpost here just to flow it into it more. And like I have an idea here, possibly just taking the metal and coming up like this way here on the door itself, leaving all this here, and the seal will go in here, but this will come out to here and go to there. All the corner of the dash here, this is all going to be built. But this is what I wanted. You can see this here now. This here, well, the other side's perfect. This side here, I still got to come up a small, or go down a small bit. But I just want to go straight back to this here. I've seen these here like this, on an angle like this, and the dash should be extremely low. I never liked it. Now, I thought the fender on the other side was going to be some issues with tire clearances. Now, granted, there's going to be tire clearances anyway. But this is what I'm looking at here. Now, when you turn left to right, this is what's going to happen. But there seems to be a fair bit here. Now, this may have to come in, but it feels pretty solid there. But this is the distance that you got to be dealing with when you're turning left to right. And the back tire on the back side, back here, right here, seems to be pretty good for what I'm doing with it. But, so I might just get away with that for now. That don't look half bad. Like the fender, it may have to come down a small bit more in the front. But it's centered. It looks pretty good there, centered in the wheel. I just basically done like they said. I lined up the lip with the lip. I do have it pushed back a small bit right here. I'm trying to get as much as I can in the cab as I can for room. Distance here. This was the original rear seat mount here, and that was the back floor. So, and the seat would have went this way, so it's not bad. I haven't even stopped. I've been out here at this now, steady. Come out here early this morning, and it's the afternoon now. I haven't even been in for lunch. So I'm pleased with it. I can see what's got to be done with it now. I'm happy that where the dash is too. You can look across here and you can see the height of the dash. That looks good. I'm going to take a break from this now, size up a few things, and see what my next game plan is going to be here now. Well, it's now the next evening. I got away from this. I had to tidy up the garage and everything. I'm here working on other stuff in the shop. Doing a lot of small things on this here. I'm not going to cover it for a while. I want to get so much work done on this car again to move forward with it. So I'm just going to work away on this here between this in the daytime, and it comes out of this in the evenings. So I'm out here this evening now figuring out my game plan. I played around. I got the cab put where I wanted to. I've been sizing up different things, the height of it. I got to play around with the mounting of it, like where it's going to sit. The forward and backward, I'm pleased with. When you stand back here, that wheel looks good in the wheel well. I like that position there. So I'm pretty content to mount that like this, using this as my reference here. When you look at that there, you can see that I'm just a little bit behind that. So that puts my wheel in a position where I like it. The overall height, I'm happy with it. The way the dash sits, I'm happy with it. The distance here, I'm happy with it. Now, the next thing I got to run into now is, you see me, I had to chop all the corners out of here. I had to cut a large section out of the cowl over here. Now, here's the thing. If you see the way this is shaped, coming over here and it turns around, and there was a curved edge here and it rolled off. This is how this worked. This here is what all your fresh air came in for your heater in the old truck. So when you turned the heater on and you drew outside air, it came from here, which came from holes down here on the sides next to the heater box. I think it's over there on that side. There's a large hole that goes out to the heater box. So all your fresh air came in from here. Now, being open like this here, when it rained and water ran off the windshield, it ran down side of here. What it did is it just flowed along there over the edges and come down, and there was drains down on the bottom here, the bottom side. Down in this lower section here on both sides, there was drains. one there and one there, just underneath that there. So the water used to flow over and flow down. Now I got everything cut out of it. Now the water can't flow to these sides. So I got to figure out some way to drain the water out of that. Now the air inlet for this heater is on the top right here. I think I'm going to leave that like it is. And I'm going to adapt, make a mechanism here. I think I'm going to build a wall. Now this here can drop of water, can go into this here. There's a drain down right here for this. So if any water gets into that, it's only going to drain out down here. But all the water from here on over here is going to go over and just run out here. I got to make sure that the water doesn't run inside the car. This is the big dilemma I'm getting into. And now on top of that, I got to find out how to mount these wipers. Now when you look in through here, you can see where the wipers used to mount, over there on this side over here. And then when you come over here, you can look down. If I get it out of the light right here, there's a spot right here for the wiper to mount. Now you see me, I cut all this section out here to make clearances for the wipers to rotate back and forth. Now the problem with it is the wiper motor used to fit in there. So when you weld this up, you're welding this permanently to this here, you're not gonna have access to that no more. Now here's the thing, out here in front, I got a light putting away there now, but up inside there you can see there's a large gap up inside there. And this is the actual bottom of this box. So when you take this here and look up there, you can see the way that goes along there. Now the intersection of this here, right in here, that's where the actual wiper motor used to mount and used to hang down here into this here. Now, I have an idea. After looking at a few videos now, a lot of the guys in California and them places, they just eliminates that. They don't need to have wipers on the vehicles. They don't worry about that. Up here in the northern climates, where we get, especially here in Newfoundland, we get a lot of rain, I'm going to want wipers. And I'm going to want a decent job on it. Now, after looking at a couple of different guys that's after doing these trucks, that's after reinstalling the wipers in them. The biggest problem I'm running into right now is how much I have this channeled. A lot of the guys jacks these up a bit and there's a large gap along here and they can fit their hands in there and they can make it accessible and work on it. But where I got all this cut out of it, because not too many fellas cuts this much out of this here. And has it so that this comes up and a lot of them even keeps their turn and everything in it. So there's a large gap here. So, you know, the cab is actually probably 4 inches higher than what it is here. So they managed to get room with it. I'm having a bigger problem because of the way I got this mounted. Now, because I got that cut out of it, I got to redesign the whole drainage system on the bottom side of this here. What I want to do is I want to have the wiper motor outside right here. I want to cut a section out of here, drop it back in. The wiper was originally mounted this way. I want to turn around and mount it this way. And I want to have it mounted on the inside of the thing and then basically build a drainage thing that'll go around it like this here. So any water runs down through here, it'll run off this way here and it'll run off this way here. But I got to work on this over here, what way I'm going to run that. Because this here is not going to be as high along here anymore. Or I might just cut holes in it here and let the water run out into the cowl section. This is what I'm up against. So, but I've been sizing everything up and I think that's my game plan here. I got roughly, when you're looking across there, you can see this thing here. That's roughly about 1.5 inches below that outer lip that I got room. But when I look up at it, this way here, this here is out past this, right here. So if I mounted it this way on this inner panel, I should be able to clear this unit here so the motor could probably stick down here a small bit if need be. So there's the dilemma I'm into. This is the big thing on mounting this cab I want us to figure out. All this welding, all this stuff up, it's a joke. I don't mind none of that. There's just patches upon patches. Bend up little pieces of metal, weld them in. As simple as that. This here is key for me right now. This here and the air inlet over here, I'm making sure that this here is sealed off and the cab is sealed off so that if any rain gets past this here, it doesn't go inside the car. So over here, this is the original F100 wiper mechanism. This used to mount underneath the dash and hang down like this. That's the way that was there on the inside, facing out, and then these bolted into the holes on the sides like this and went up through and came out. This here is the Crown Vic wiper mechanism. There's the motor there. This is all I want off of this is this motor. I want to adapt this motor to this arm right here. So these here can be mounted to it. And then I'm going to mount it on the outside, hopefully. This is my plan that I want to do with this here. But what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to haul the cab off again, lay it on the floor. I got an idea what I'm going to do, and I'm just going to go ahead and get the wiper set up, mounted on this here. I'm going to go with the idea that I got. I want to be able to have it so that I can maintain, and if it has any problems, the wiper motor goes, I want access to it. If I mount it all in here, I'll never get at it. I got to take the dash out of it, cut a hole in the firewall to get it out. So I've been sizing this up, and that was the idea I come up with. So I'm going to get this cab off and get it set up so I can start working on it. And I want to get the wiper mounted and get all this drainage bottom side all figured out. So I got it all laid down in place here, and I got the car put all back over there in the corner again. The problem I got here is I got 4 stands on this. This is in the way. I got to let it down. It's fine, it's kind. It's not going to be in the way as much. So here's what we got. There's the 2 mounts for the actual bracket. I'm going to bolt this all together. Now, over here I got rust, and the 2 bolts are gone there, the 2 nuts are gone there, and the other nut is broke off. Over there, I got them all, and 1 nut is broke off. So I'm going to run the tap through 2 of them, and weld some washers on that, let that go. And I'm going to bolt this all together just to see the layout of how this whole thing looks. So I got it all bolted up here now, and you can actually see how this was mounted in the truck. This here bolted on the firewall. This one here did. Of course, firewall's gone. But this wiper motor is now in the park position. So the wiper blades are down. Now you can see these angles here. These are crucial. See the angle of that one there and the angle of that one there. And of course, note that you can't even see that there because of the light. But this one here is straight across, pointing this side over here. It's hard to see. Where am I to? There you go. There you can see that down there. That's pointing straight across this way here. So all these here are ready to go this way. This one's ready to go this way. Okay. So what this is going to do is this is going to pull this down, which is going to make the wiper go up. And this one here is going to pull this one down, which is going to make the wiper go up. And the way the angles these are on got to do with this one here, I think has a longer sweep than this one here. But this is the thing that you got to... the fellas after fooling up, because sometimes these here don't line up. Now I took lots of pictures of all this here because I wanted to see where it all went to and how it all sat. But you can see here now where this is mounted to. My plan is to take the motor and mount it on the other side of this here and have it pointing this way. Like right now this is pointing this way. I want to have it pointing this way and then have it parallel to the side of the thing, and then have the arm come through here and then rotate this way. So when I put it through here, I got to make sure that it's parallel to the long length that way there when I put the arm on it. So now that I know where this is to, and I got pictures taking all this here, I can figure out what I'm going to do next. Now out here on this side here, I got all that, like you see where I cut all this out of here. This here, I intend to possibly cut up here, cut this section out so I can move back into it, but leave the intersection there. I think I'm going to make a hole big enough there with a plating system that I can bolt on, that I can actually reach my hand in through to unbolt these brackets here. If I ever had to let go the wiper arms or something like that, I should be able to get my hand in there and get them off, because they will be an issue to get at. Over here you can see where I got this cut out. This is inside the car. So if I get any water getting down in here, this is going to leak inside the car, so I got to close this off. Right here is where I want the wipers to be mounted, and I'm figuring that it's going to be on an angle here somewhere. Over here is the fresh air system that I was talking about for the actual heater. That's right there. That's where all the air comes in through. And this here just had a screen over top of it. I still got that. I can put it back on. If any watering gets down there, it actually runs out through this little mechanism right here. It comes out through the bottom of the actual box itself. So I got to incorporate all that in it. I think I'm going to end up probably just cutting all this section out of it all together, because I want to tie all this in and I want to seal this all up so that when I go to mount the actual body to the car, that I haven't got to worry about water getting in there. But anyway, I'm going to get in and start chopping this up and making plans, and I'll bring it back when I got so much of it figured out. When it comes to projects like this, it takes a bit of thinking, you're trying to figure out how to do stuff and how you're going to go about attacking it. Usually I'll set this up, I'll put stuff together, I'll size it up and I'll walk away from it. This is not the same day, by no means. This is a few days later. I had other things to be at, and I decided to do some thinking on how I'm going about this. So I thought about it long and hard. Now, the hardest part about this is doing the precise measurements, making sure everything is just so. But I want to simplify it and just make it so that it's just simple and I can center it up and whatever after the fact. I haven't got to worry about making sure that I drills the right hole here and I drills the right hole there. And this is on the right angle, that's on the right angle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some tabs that I'm going to tack weld on here and in here that I'm going to use and put zip ties on to hold this all steady. It don't have to be perfect, but as long as it holds at that angle and all that type of stuff, so I know we're just got to go back. Permanently mount these where they're two, temporarily, so that way I can work on this section here, and I got to take the arm off of this and put on the Crown Vic one. So make some tabs down, get this welded up. As you know, I have abundance of this old scrap kicking around, so I took a length of it and I cut off 4 pieces about 2 inches long. I come over here, found 4 locations that were resting on this here, resting on the actual arm itself. Got the angle of it there. Same with this one, and the same with that one, and welded them on. Then I just put a simple little zip tie on them all to hold them all in place. So now this whole setup is stationary where it got to be. So I got this let go and taken off, and everything's held in place to where it's supposed to go. Now I checked prior to everything, you can tell the way these are sat anyway, that this was the park position. I did the same thing with the Crown Vic one. That was in the park position when I took it off the car, and this one here was the same way. So next thing I got to do now is take this wiper motor off, because I'm going to want this arm right here, and I'm going to turn around and take this wiper motor off, take that one apart and compare the 2 of them. So I'll get 2 of them stripped down. I don't need this no more, and I won't need this no more. So I got 2 wipers apart here now, and just got the wiper motors. Now if you look at this one here, this is the park position on this one here, all the way over here. So it's going to work out pretty good. And I got to take this arm here now and modify it to fit on here. So I'm going to pop 2 of these off and see what we're up against. So I got 2 of them apart. The one that came off the F100 has got a square keyway, and the one off the actual Crown Vic has got an knurled edge on it. When you tighten it up, it fits down over this here edge here, and as you tighten it up, it'll actually press into it to hold it in place. Now this setup is good because I can adjust it wherever I want it to be 0, because I can move this vertical now and have this at 0 where I want it to be, so the wiper motor sits straight in the engine bay. The problem I got now is, what do I do here with the 2 of these here? I've seen guys taking these and welding these onto the end of this here. I don't like the idea of that, because it's an electric motor and the brushes and everything inside, and there's bearings and everything in here as well that you're going to heat up. I would like to have it so that I can use this setup here, but I want to have this keyway on the end of it. I think all I'm going to do is figure out a way I can position 2 of these so this here center line lines up, cut them off and switch this one over to this one here and line it up in the middle and weld it on, and use this section here with this section of arm and 2 of them welded together. So here's the contraption I got rigged up. I got this one flat on the bench and I welded it onto the bench itself. Then I put this one parallel to it. And what I did is I drew a line through the center, a pencil line through the middle of it. So the actual center line of this here and the center line of this lines up on the pencil line. So what I did then is I turned around and welded this one to this one here. So that was flush to the actual, so my height is here. So to maintain this height, I welded this piece of flat bar onto it and drew a line along here and a line along here. Now that I got 2 of these positioned on the bench, I'm going to run the zip blade. I've done a bit of marker here and then described the line here. I'm going to run the zip blade along here and cut the 2 of them clean right off. And I'll just slide this over and center it into this one here and weld it on right here. This will maintain its height. And this line here will keep it from going left or right. So I got them cut off. So now all I'll do is I'll remove this piece here, slide this over the center of this here, line up this marker up here on this side here. So I'm happy with it right there. Make sure that's in the center there. Gotta leave a little bit of a gap on it. Get that parallel. And I'll just weld that up. That's it. Simple as that. So I gotta put a crude weld on that. Lots of heat in it. But what I'm going to do, I'll let that cool off there now. I'm going to cut this off the bench, cut this clear. Everything lines up nice up here. And I'm going to flip it over, put a bit of a V in it, weld the back side of it, and then grind and dress it. I really don't have to do much with it. Other than out here, I got to make sure that the actual nut will fit back on. Got a little bit of a gap there now. I'll just turn around, run a nice heavy bead across that there. And then all I'll probably do is just cut off these corners here a bit, dress this up. I'll leave all the bulk down here as the way it was. And I'll just grind and dress this section and this section on the other side. There you have it. Brand new. So I can put that there like so. Next thing now I got to figure out is the standoff, because I only got this much room right here. I can come out a small bit more with it for the actual gear. So what I'm thinking is that when this is mounted right here, this here has to be the actual firewall itself. That the firewall is here now. It has to be about right here somewhere is where it'll have to be. And so I got to actually build a standoff now that'll mount to this here, that'll come up, that'll give me a little bit of a platform that I can build it on. And the reason why I want to pull it on a platform is I can move it around in. I'm just going to cut a big hole in the firewall section up there, and I'm going to make a platform here that I can move around, position it so this lines up, and then I'll just drill holes to mount it. So I haven't got to be precise on where it's got to be, because this here is only going to go one place, and when that finds its place where it's got to go back on the arms, then I'll just have to drill the holes in the platform. I just got to figure out now some sort of mechanism. I was going to use this here, but it's backwards. It got to be the other way, and if I flips it over, these holes are over here and it's too big. I'm trying to keep everything in the motor section, so I want to build a box that goes from about right here to about right here, and have it step up so that I can actually put tabs on it, that I can actually bolt it on to the actual piece that's out there, make it out of heavier steel, and I can move it around, and wherever it clamps in place and where it fits nice, I'll just drill a few holes. So I'm over here now, and I got the plating system all taken apart. There's a little foam ring on it. There's 3 holes in it. This here is the wrong angle, but it's pretty thick stuff. And I want to build something similar to this, but as a standoff that'll move this back, so I only have so much distance here. Because right now, if I mount this to the flush on the actual firewall section, this here sticks out way too far into the actual body. So I figured it was about up here where it needs to be for this here to be the right height. And as I measured it up to be about 1/2 an inch. So I got to make a plating system now to replace this here that will stand that off. This is what I come up with. I found this old panel. It's pretty thick. You can see the thickness of it. I hang on to everything. I use everything. It's some sort of electrical panel. What I did then is I figured out the size that I wanted to go, and I measured up 4 by 5. That should be big enough for this here. And I'm going to put angle on it right here on this side here to stand it off. That'll give me my 1/2 inch. And then this lip here will be where I'll mount to. I can put screws or whatever it is, bolts or whatever into that. I want to have a big enough hole that when I take this off, I can get my hand in there. Pretty well straightforward, simple. It's a square box. I'm going to cut it out. I'm going to weld 4 sides on it. I got to mark it out and drill these 3 holes so they'll actually fit onto it. And had that so that I could bolt onto these 3 holes using the factory bolts that were there below to it. And just make use of everything I got. Let's get this cut out. So here's what I come up with. This is the plating system. I just went over and I cut out 4 by 5 inch section, and I went and marked the holes. I got them off center because I want this to sit on this way here, onto that. Then I cut out 4 little tabs, which are 1/2 inch high. Then I'm going to weld on here to step it off so that when it bolts on from the other side, it'll actually be stepped off as well. I don't ever get carried away with it. I had to make another one because one of the ones I cut was way out of whack. Ooh. The angles were way off. So I had to make one more. But I looked into the other 3. I never got carried away with it. I'm pretty good at eyeballing 45 degrees. I must have fell asleep on that one. But I got it set up right here now. I'm going to go ahead now and get in there and weld all this up solid. Weld up these tabs here on the corners. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to round out these corners here so it looks nice. I'll probably never ever see it. I don't know. But still, that's the offset that I wanted. I used the bench to line everything up. I just kept laying it in place so that I never tried to weld them on this way. I kept it all flat So I clamped this onto the bench here, brought this in and welded it on, turned it, clamped this onto the bench, welded it here, and so forth all the way around it. Now that I got it all in place and I'm happy where it's to, I'm going to weld it all up. Look at that lovely job! All I did is I welded it all up on the inside. I'm not going to bother to weld the outside. I'm going to take the grinder out, grind up the outside, make it look pretty on the outside. This on the inside here, I'll just grind this sections here flat. Just have it and round out these edges. And that'll be perfect enough for me. When I goes to mount that in there, be brand new. There it is, all dressed up. Never got fancy with it. Just hit it with the grinder, 24. Grind off. You can get really fancy with it. Never welded the outside of it. Never bothered with it, just cleaned it off. There's enough welding on the inside. Never done nothing on the inside there, left it all alone. I went ahead then and I put 4 or 6 holes in it. What it is, I offset this one here and this one here. So when this is mounted in place, I can still get at the bolts from up here. Look down, I can still get at the bolt hole there. So now these will be the mounting ones that I'll bolt on after, and then this will bolt to this here. This here will be a full big large hole in behind it, and this will bolt on. That way when I take this off, I can put my hand in there and reach in around to grab stuff. So I'm going to put this together here now. And there you got a nice little mounting box. I got the actual thing put on. I went and done that parallel the way it was on the original one that was on the Ford truck. I got that put over there. It was down a small bit more on the Crown Vic, but this is the park zone. This wiper motor's in park now, so I'll just rotate around there and it'll stop there each time. If it needs to adjust it, I can unbolt this and just play around with it a bit if there is an issue with it. But now the nicest thing about this here is, like, you'd be trying to figure out a hole to put in here through the body to line all this up. I haven't got to worry about it now. I'm just going to cut a big old hole in the back of that there now and put this in there and slide it around so this lines up. I'll put a couple of clamps on this for now and put the rods back on and then put the clip back on it. Then I'll know where I can actually mark the holes to actually mount that, and that bracket is done. So here's what I got done. This is where the wiper is going to be mounted to. You can plug it into the original harness here. And I'm going to have to extend this down so I can get some mounting points on that there. But I had to trim all that out in order to fit that up inside there. You see the way I got it cut out here, so there's lots of room. And I set it up so these here went on and they rest in their place. I had to let this one go up here to do some modifications to this, because what ended up happening is 2 of these here have 2 different size bushings. The shaft on this arm is a larger shaft and a smaller shaft. And what ended up happening is 2 of these had to be flipped around. And this one here had to be tweaked a bit to fit on over the shaft again, because this one here before was on this side here. This one's always got to be on the outside edge of the actual shaft. And when the shaft was going the other way, this was in here and the other one was out here. So that's minor. I just tweaked them a bit and everything is still sitting where it's supposed to sit. Over here, I never let this one here go. But that one there is sitting where it's supposed to. So now I just got to figure everything else out now. I think I'm going to... I can't go cutting too much more of this out of this, because it's going to weaken up this entire cowl section. I got to start welding stuff in and figuring stuff out. So I think I'm going to have to start welding up these corners here, get that welded in. And I got to do some repairs here first, so I might as well extend down this here, make a piece here that I can put 4 screws in it, so then that can be mounted, and then these here will fall where they have to. That way I can remove all this stuff here. Because once I let these go, this here can still move around, and this will change all the angles. So once this is mounted, where this is to, this will only go back one way. So here's where I'm to. I went and got a scrap piece of metal. This is a bit of 20 gauge, 18 gauge I had kicking around here. That's that old white stuff that I had. It's a piece off of this. Haven't got much of that left. I turned around and I made it so this here had something to sit on the bottom. And I left it long. I'm going to have to trim this up to figure out how I'm going to mount it to the rest of the car itself, or the truck. And what I did is I cut the back out of it, and I cut the whole center right out of it, and I give myself a bunch of mounting points where I can actually bolt it up. Now I got it all trimmed up over here, ready to go. I got a couple of holes to weld in there, as you can see. I'm going to get this fit in place, get them 2 holes welded up, and get that piece welded in. There you go, got it all welded in. The holes are welded up. So that's all positioned there now. I got a nice big hole here. So I can actually come in through. I got it all put back together again now. So now this here can be all removed. I got to do repairs here. I want to close in these ends here. Come up here, just cap the ends of them here, closing this hole here, fix this hole down here. Same with the patches over there. I got one there to do, close that one up and fix that corner there. Come up and kick out a small bit. I'm going to go ahead and do a bunch of patchwork on this because there's going to be nothing fancy about the patchwork I'm going to do on this here now. Everything I'm going to do on this here now, you're never going to see it when it's done. I got to start cutting corners on this now to get some headway on it. I want to get this here cowl section completed. So I'm going to go ahead now and start making a bunch of patches and get them all welded in. Well, I've been busy and I didn't want to bore you with none of this because all I'm doing with this is just patching stuff up, okay? Not getting carried away with it. I made little covers for that. I put them on plug welds. I made a brace up there. Welded that in solid. It's just an overlap. Same with down here. I cut the piece out down there where it was gone. Cleaned everything out of the rocker. And then just patched over the top of it. Done the same thing over here. Cut it out. Patched it over. Made a little patch cover for that. I made a little patch cover for that. And I actually welded that on out here on the edge. And up here, I went and cut the lip off it here. And I cut the lip off it here. And I actually welded the lip. Welded the lip on. And that is the reasoning for that is because I'm going to adapt this here to this seam here. So this seam was what you'll see going across the front. It was straight on the Ford, but it's like this on the Crown Vic. And I'm going to do this with the Ford cab. You'll understand it better when I get to it. I was really hung up on this front end here, this section here being outside, like I was saying, and got myself cut and everything. Like water getting in here and where it was going to run to and all that type of stuff. And then the more I thought about it, I said, no, I just want to get structural strength back in this corner here. I wanted to keep all the dirt and everything from road dirt or anything that will get around. I don't want it to get in and the pocket because there's going to be a pocket in here and I don't want to go getting that filled up. So I just got these patched up and this is the extent of, like down here I got the bottom left out of it. I got that left out of it for the vent. Over here then I just left a little end piece out of it over here. I'm not too much worried about it. I have to do some repairs out here. But I want to get the cab mounted before that. And like what you see here now is what I need to get done. The rest of this will be done from out in the engine bay. In here now, the only other thing I got left to do now is I got to weld up the hole over here. This setup here, she's all gone up in here and up along here. And I think I'm just going to make a whole new piece that's going to overlap that. And I'm going to mark the 3 holes, drill them out. And then have it so that I can actually weld the nuts on the back side of it and then just weld it right in there, big solid piece. It doesn't matter if it's back the thickness of the metal, a little tiny bit. That's not going to interfere with nothing. Main thing is now I got this here mounted. So this here will all go back together again so I can take this all apart. So here's what I'm up against. I got it all taken apart here now. I know this is where this has got to be so everything should fall back in place. Over here I got to tap these out, clean up the treads a bit. And this one here I got a bolt broke off in it. So I'm going to have to put a weld washer and a nut on that and see if I can get that out of there. So I'll play with that and get that done. Over here is a whole different story. There's a backing plate in here. And the backing plate, everything's gone. It's amazing how this rusted. This is all gone up here. I'm just going to do an overlap piece that's just going to go over here. And I'm going to drill all these out and just turn around there and weld it on there and weld it on there and weld it on across the top there. I'm going to clean it all up. And I'm going to just cut a section of this out of my way just so that the whole piece will fall back in there again. And then weld a new section in place. Moving it forward or back is only going to be the thickness of the metal. Then I'm going to be moving it back a small bit. I think it should be fine. So I'm just going to go ahead now. First of all, I'm going to get this one here straightened away. Get that straightened up. And then I'm going to go in and start making this one here. I'm here now. I'm getting ahead of myself. I got to stop. This is the gasket belonging to the wiper thing, and I've been using this to draw stuff out. Okay, I still got the lines there. And I basically found a center on this here, and I marked it for the 3 holes. Then I turn around, I punched them, and I drill them out. But before I drill them at 1/8, what I did then is I need to build a backing piece for this as well to give it strength. And I made this here. This is just a piece of flat steel. And all I did is I cut it out flat, and then I laid this behind this here, and then marked it, and then just drilled through. Once I had this one here drilled, I just drilled out all the holes. This hole here, I only had that down to 1/8 at first. Then I went ahead and I drilled them out to that size here, and I think it's about 1 inch. Way this is going to work now is so this fits in the rig like so. This panel here will go on the back side like this, and that'll be a reinforcement piece to be a knot here, knot here, and a knot here. But this here is the bracket, is rusted out on the truck itself, so I'm going to cut it all out of it. I'll cut a piece out of it about this big here, and I'll slide this in there, and I'm going to have it so that I can move it around a bit so I can tack weld it in place. So here's the piece all made up. That's what it looks like, and that'll go right there, like so. And on the back side, I just found 3 nuts and bolted it on, and then welded them on. So they're my actual studs, or whatever you want to call them, my threads. And I welded the plate onto the back side of this. I come over here then, I centered it up, and I marked it out. I got to cut that section of it out of it. I'm just going to overlap this. And what I'm going to do is, once I get that cut out and trimmed up and cleaned up around there, I'm going to put it all back together again and set it all up so that everything is where it's supposed to be. Because this will only go a certain way. And I got it set up so I can move it side to side if I got to. Because once I cut this out, I'm not going to be able to know exactly where it goes. I'm going to let this arm here and the length of that there tell me where it got to go. And I'll just make sure that when I put this in, it's not like this and it's level across the top to line up with that body line there. There you have it all chopped out. This is the piece that I cut out. There's the back side of it, look. That's how rough that is. So I got that all bolted together there now. I got the other one bolted on. I'm going to put it all together here, put it up in place, put a pair of vice grips on to hold it in place, and then line it up. And there I got a tack welded in place. All I did is I made sure, if you look out through there, made sure that was nice and centered. Put the arm on here. This is in position. I got that one put in place to make sure that nothing moves. And then this rests on this one here. So that's where that's supposed to be. That's the angle it's got to be on. I just tack welded it in place. Double checked everything. I'm just going to weld it up now. Not getting overly fussy with it. There it is, all welded and dressed. And I put the top in it. Then I put the lip back on it for the dash because I want to have that looking presentable looking, and grinded that up. Because when I weld the dash, the front section of the dash, and I'm trying to do it with very little body work. I want this to look nice up along here in front. I'm going to paint it the same color as basically the, I might paint the dash color yet. I don't know yet. Anyway, I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. But yeah, this is all the modifications that I'm going to do to this now. So this can be put on the actual frame. Next thing I got to get started on now is welding that all up and cutting stuff up on that over there. I got a pile of work to do there, pile of work to do there. Yeah. So it's a new day. I come over here and I give this place a quick clean up, got everything, got all my tools picked up, and I bolted this all together. Make sure everything was fitting good. All that fits good. So I got that done now. This is pretty well ready. I just want to paint all this stuff here, and everything else that I got to do welding wise on this here is going to be done while the cab is on. But I got all this stuff closed off, like I said earlier. All this is to keep the heavy dirt out. I'm not worried about it leaking or nothing like that. This is going there's a compartment in between both this here, and I got to seal up the one inside of it. That's this one here. This is what we got to work on today. I got to work on getting this all sealed up, so that we can actually put the cab on. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to cut all this section out. I'm going to leave this little bit of a lip right here, all along here, because it seems like the cavity, and by the looks of it, the way it worked, water was supposed to flow down into this section here and run to the middle, off the front of it. So I got to set this up here now, cut off a few pieces, clean it up. I got to cover this in because all the water running off of here will run inside, so I got to seal this off as well. I'm just going to dive right into this and get this thing done. Like, I'll bring you back when I got some more work done. I'm going to get this all cleaved out of it and start making pieces. So here is where I'm to. I have all this cleaved off up here. And I got this little lip left all the way along here. Going right on down around over to the other side. This is like a drainage lip. So the water will run and try to pool in here and then run out on the sides here or on the front somewhere. Up the front here. I turned around and I cleaned all this up here. Down along this edge here. I cleaned this up along here. I cut off anything high. There was a couple of bolts right here that were sticking up. I cut them off. And I cleaned up this edge here. Along here. I had to do a taper along here, so I'm going to put a bottom in it and have it so that it just lays flat against it there. On top here, I'm going to leave it open for now. Let's see what else. Over here is a bit tricky because I got to work around the heater box, but I think I got that figured out. Over here, I got to, just here bumps out, so I got to come along here and kind of like do a little bump in it to come to there. My whole plan is to just take a big piece of metal and spot weld it on down through here, spot weld it on along here, up along here as well. That is my plan. The way I want to build this here is I want to have it so that water will run down through here and then it'll run in this direction or that direction. I want to have the overlap going this way. So this piece will be here, this piece will overlap here, this piece will overlap here. That's such a thing. And this here will overlap here. So that any runoff won't be bumping into metal like this here. It's going to be all seam sealed up, but I want to have it so that the actual metal comes down and overlaps here and goes this way here so that it doesn't have the, like if I put it on the back side, it'll have an edge that the water could run into. So I'm just going to turn around now and just get some blind pieces back into the roof again. Cut sections out of this here. I'll measure them up. Cut 2 sections out of that for each side. I'll just over measurement. I'll take a measurement probably from here to here, from probably here down to here somewhere, and just cut out 2 big squares, clamp it in place, mark it out, trim it up, weld it in. That's my whole plan with this. I'm not getting carried away with it. So here's where I'm to. Over here, there's a transition here that fades out from one to the other. This is thicker here by about 3/4 of an inch, and it fades out. I took a piece of that angle that I had kicking around, and I turned around and I shaved down one end of it, and I welded it on there. So now this is a straight transition, so I haven't got to worry about bending all this in and ruining the piece of metal. Up here is a simple little panel. Not going to bother to take the paint off it. I'm only going to grind this off. Probably have to come back another ½ inch or so after it's all welded up, because it's probably going to burn the paint off. But I'm going to leave all that there. Not going to worry about it. But that's the panel there. I'm going to clamp that in place there now and weld it on. Nothing fancy. That's all I can say. I got this here is brought up tight on this section here, and I tapped it in here, so this is the high spot. I am a bit concerned that when I put the cab on, I may have clearance issues, but I do remember having a lot of clearance up in this corner. That's the reason why I did it like I did on this corner of the cab. That is a bit high, so it should fit, fingers crossed. But all I did is I just plug weld it down, grinded it off. I grinds it off because it's going to be, I got to weld to it later on, because when I weld the cab on, I'll weld the cab to here, okay? And then I'll seam seal up this front edge. This here hasn't got to be seam sealed up. Just the bottom edge down here got to be seam sealed up. And this here, I won't seam seal up till I get the cab welded on. Next, I got to work on is getting this up here. But before I do that, I'm going to do the other side. So I got this panel here all installed and welded in. All that's done. Jagged piece of metal there. Shoved my finger into it. So I got that done. I went ahead and I went on. What I need to do now is I got to fill in this section here. But before I do that, the other side is fine. Well, no, it's not. I got to do the other side too. Yes. Do this side first. But what I need to do is, because of the way this is shaped here, I left this little valley here because I got to cap this in, but I want to make it parallel to here. And I just went ahead, took another piece of the old Crown Vic metal. This is what I bent up. Now the way I'm designing all this there, everything has to overlap. So when water runs down over this here, it's going to overlap. As you can see the way that's done there. This will be plug welded on here. Water can run over here and run off of this here. And then down here, I'll bang this in place along here, and I'll put a few tack welds in along here. And then water, I can seam seal all that up. That there has a pocket that'll actually fall into. And then I'll just probably weld up this corner here just for it to seal it up. Right here now, the panel will end up coming down here. I'm going to bend this back a little small bit just to give it a little bit of an angle. I can do that after. Well, it's all set up there now. All I got to do is just weld it in place and tack it in. That piece is done. Then I'll go over and I'll do the same with the other side. Nothing fancy there. This overlaps this here, this goes up behind this here, and I tapped it down with a hammer, and I just put a few tacks along there. I'll seam seal that up along here. Over here, it just flows off the end of it, and it's tack welded along here. I'll seam seal this here, but this here will flow this way. I'm here now figuring out something here to close up along here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the section of the quarter panel that I was going to use for something else. I'm going to cut this off here now and see if I can use this roll here, inside out, to put here, because I want this here to come down like so and turn this way, and I want to have a downward slope so any water gets in here and I'll just want to run this way here and run into this pocket here. So I'll go ahead now and chop that out and see what I can come up with that. There's nothing pretty about that. That's butchery at its finest. That's the panel turned inside out. Not fussy because it's going uphill here, but it'll do. You'll never see it, but it's tapering off this way, which is fine. I just have a tack welded every inch or so along on the edge here, and that'll be seam sealed. No need of solid welding that, you know, because you'll never seal it up with just welding it, I can tell you that. So just turn around, I'll seam seal all that. I tack welded, I spot welded it on the bottom side of this lip here. Give this here dash support lots of strength. That way now I got something to weld to the cab too. Up here I just rolled off the edge here, going around here. I got to do something with this when I gets the cab on. Probably do something with that, but I'm not too concerned about that because most of the water is going to be in around this area here and running out this way and running off the edge. So I got that side done. And what I'm going to do now is repeat the same process on the other side. I got this little section here installed, nothing fancy again. It's spot welded on across here. I had to be very careful with it because there's a rubber seal in there. And I was trying to put it on it and put air on it, trying to keep it from melting the rubber. But I got that put in place here now, and that's nice and solid. This here will be put back in place again. There's a screen goes over the top of this here. That'll keep all the debris, heavy debris and everything get out of there. And what I got to do now is I got to build this side here much the same way as that side over there. I'm going to go to about right here with this side. I'm going to build the middle separate. I'm here welding in this piece over here, and I start thinking about a few things here. I'm fitting this in here, and I'm not like trying to get everything to fit perfect. I'm getting this top section welded on, and basically the entire bottom is like this all the way along. And all I'm doing is I'm welding as I'm going, and then I'm shaping it as I'm going. That's all I'm doing. I'll shape that, I'll weld that a little bit there, and I'll move on. You'll never be able to sit down and get this to fit perfect. A lot of cases like this. This is how I used to do floor pans years ago. When you were like, you know, doing inspections and stuff like that, you had to put a floor in a car. A lot of times I just overbuild a piece, make it big enough, and then I'd start hammer forming it. I'd start welding it and then shaping it with the welder. And like as you're going along, then like you see all this here has a nice shape to it now. And I'll just continue on welding here, and I'll bring this all the way out around the corner here now and shape all this here the same process. And there I got that one welded in. See, I just bent it into place, worked my way around the corner, and I just hammered all this here to the shape that I wanted it, folded over the corner, so this would flow off of here. This flows down across this here, flows down over here, and then I got to weld it up along top there. So that's another piece. All I got left to do now is one more there in the middle. I hope the cab fits. All this work for nothing. My biggest concern is the wipers. Making sure I got clearance for them. But this did come down this way. I just hope I got enough room there for them to swing now, that's all. Some people might be wondering that it seems to be a lot of work I'm doing to this truck. And you don't usually see that on these builds. Reason for that is that I'm lowering the cab down more. A lot of these trucks, when you saw them, the dashes were a couple of inches lower than the base of the windshield. And you can avoid all this if you just had that dash sitting lower. The cab sits higher. All this here is irrelevant then. There's lots of room in there for the wipers. You can some actually keeps the factory wiper motor in there. But I was after a certain look, and I knew this was involved in it. That's it. Anyway, get this last piece done. That old roof skin has really come in handy. See where the lights were on the roof of the car. I've been working around it. It's the piece there now. It's going right there. Nothing fancy here. Just another section of the roof. Rolled over a bit. I bent up the edge here a small bit. Of course, I got the bottom. I got test fitting this now 3 or 4 times and got it to the point where I'm close enough that I can weld it in place and start fitting everything, tapping everything as I'm going. Some of you might notice these holes. It's just this tool here. Punching holes. Also crimper on it. I've never ever used that crimper. I hear people talking about it. Never ever used it. Only got it for the hole punching. But that's what you see me using on all that there. And then I'll just spot weld on the edge here and the edge here. Let's go over and put this in. March month and the doors were open in the garage. We had a couple of mild days here and pretty well all the snow is gone. All from around the door. It's pretty wild, boy. Got some cotton. A little tiny bit over there in the garden is these. But that's it. I got this done. You saw me going for the whole motions there. Putting it in place, welding across the top, down the sides, hammer forming everything as I'm going. It looks pretty good there. So that's it. I think I counted them up, almost 20 pieces put in between that and this, trying to get this cab situated so I can mount it. because you can't weld none of this after the fact. Once that cab is laid in place, no. So 20 pieces had to be welded into it in order to seal it up, basically. But what I got to do next now is I'm going to have to mount this, because I still got to seam and seal all this up and everything, but I'm thinking I should mount it, put it in position, size everything up, make sure I got clearances on everything, and it's going to fit, because I may have to chop stuff up again and cut stuff up to make stuff work, because this looks too nice, this looks too good, they had to be left alone. I can picture now, I'm here, I got visions in my head of the rotisserie thing, tapping this or something, right? I'm gonna beat all this up or cut a piece out of it or something, I don't know. But that's it. Well, I'm here now putting it on. Oh my. And as you can see, I got troubles with the wipers. And a lot of it don't look good. I'm gonna have to cut all that out of it again. I gotta cut a section, I gotta cut all that out of it, put the cab on and see what I need to build. That was a waste of time, wasn't it? That's the part of it. I was thinking about this the whole time I was at this. There's a lip on the bottom that I left there, and I think it all had got to go, the whole works of it. And I got to cut back to here somewhere and remove section of this here and build another whole section. That's going to have to be boxed in, because the problem with it is the little motor, the little wheel, can't rotate. And I can't go back. I still have to move this back another almost 2 inches yet. So I'm going to just haul this up now and take the grinder and just chop everything out of the way there and then fit it back in and see what I'm up against. Well, I cut it up, but I left the top section there. I got a tidy job done to that. I don't want to go ruining that. I may have to cut more of this off on either side. I say that side's fine, but I think this side here I may have to cut back, and I might just end up making a box there yet. So I'm going to test fit this again. I'll see where I'm to. So I got the cab back on. I got it where it should be now. And you can see there, I got the clearances there. The problem I have now, let me zoom in there. The problem I'm having now is when this thing rotates, it'll bring up in the bottom. I have only 2 inches from the center line of the actual pivot arm. Let me get a better angle of this. There we go, that's a better angle. The distance from the center line of this here pivot arm down to the actual car body is about 2 1/8 of an inch, and the distance from here to the end of this here is about 2 1/2 inches. So I got to do some modifications down here now so this can rotate. And over here I got very close there, and I can't get no access to that, so I'm gonna end up having to cut all that out of that again. And I'm gonna have to box this in straight down and straight back in order to get the clearances that I can actually do modifications on it if I want to get my hand in there, because again I'm trying to build this so I can do maintenance on it. But yeah, that's one of the things when you go at this stuff, you run into problems, and it's usually mechanical, trying to make mechanical stuff work. I could have solved this. All I gotta do is jack the body up 2 inches, 1 inch, and then the dash will be hanging down and the thing. I'm not doing that. Not having it. I want to have this dash sitting nice, and I want to have wipers. So, time to hack some more stuff out of her. I can hear it in the comments now. Tony, would have been easier if you had to go with a stock dash. Nah. Still gotta wire all that off and buy a whole bunch of aftermarket stuff, and then, you know, cobble all that together and make that look ugly, and one ugly is equal to another ugly. It's either spend a pile of money and use a stock dash with aftermarket gauges and aftermarket AC, or cobble everything together and make it look ugly anyway with the stock stuff. So the stock dash is where I'm staying. I cut more of this out. Then I come over here and I took the BFH and pounded the living guts out of this here and pounded it all down. I didn't want to go cutting it because I'm going to break the seal on the back end of it, and I'm inside the cab then. I figured if I could massage it first. I do have it knocked down a fair bit, because there's the height it was and the height it was over here, so it's almost, I'd say, 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to, right here is the section that I'm concerned about, because this is where the arm pivots to. So I got to make sure I got enough clearances there for everything to work clear. So, go back for another test fit. So I took the measurements now for where I banged it down there, and I got almost 2 3/4 of an inch now to the center line of this bolt right here, and the center line from the bolt to the end of this here is about 2.5. So I think I have enough clearances. I got to be considerate about these edges too, but they will stay on that same plane, like that angle there, and it's just that they drop down, and it might be a little bit of an issue there. Yeah, I've also sized up that I have room that I can raise up the wiper motor. I can raise it up 1/4 inch if I got to. I would like to be able to plug this in and just make it go through the motions, but I don't know. There's a dozen wires in it, and I don't know which one's on and which one's off, and I should look that up and check that out. But I think I'm going to have to figure that out first, because once I get this all welded up, this is going to be a nightmare to do work on after. So I think I'm going to have to actually figure out some way of wiring up that wiper motor and turning it on. I was kind of hoping to get all that done. This video's gotten really long now. It's longer than what it usually is. I was hoping to have that finished, and I don't have it finished. I got to try to figure all that out. I got to get the wiper working so I can actually turn it on and off and go through the motions. Search out the wiring schematics for that wiper motor, and figure out which is the power and which is the ground, because I haven't got nothing in this, no harness or nothing, and trying to rig this all up now with the harness and everything. I just need to find a way to just so I can just turn it on and turn it off and have it rotate. Well, I was kind of hoping to get everything boxed in on this and closed in this video and have it done. Nope, it's just putting up a fight for me, that's all. I've been doing pretty good. I haven't had much troubles with the car, with the project so far. Everything's been working out pretty easy. This is the first real hurdle I run into. I think I have it conquered. I just need to, I had to backtrack and redo some stuff, that's all. But that's it. That's the part of when you're going building cars and doing modifications like this. I just like to start in on this now. Just there's a few hours of work got to be done there. I'm also, you can see this lip here. I also want to extend it out. You can see this is the reason why I cut this off here. I want to show you this. I cut this off flush. This lip in here, I want to bring it out to here. I'm going to weld a piece onto that there and bring it all the way out to here and have the lip going along here, so that I can come down here and come out with the lip and have that finished look across the front of this here on both sides. Same went over there. You can see it is gone all together there. So I want to bring the lip out, and if you look the way I got it done there, you can see the lip is in underneath there. I'm just going to bring it forward, and then I can put a nice dressed lip all the way down through there, following the shape of the actual Crown Vic firewall. And then I just got to figure out what I'm going to do in here. But the biggest thing with this now, I got to make sure that wiper's working. I got to get that back section closed in. Then I got to get this positioned. This is where it's going to sit. After taking a bunch of measurements off of this now, off of this here. After taking measurements off of this here, make sure it's square. The height from here up to here. I had to put a little washer in here to raise up this side, because this side was too low. The other side's the right height for the dash up here. As you're going to look across here now, this is looking good across from here to here. That's pretty well the same height. And that's what I wanted. But that's it. This is where we're going to have to leave this one. I got a lot more work to do. I'm hoping to get that cab mounted now. I say in the next video now, I should have that cab welded on, and I'll be in the process of closing everything in. I have a lot of modifications to do. Back here, I got an interesting way I'm going to do this here. I see a lot of fellows hacking this stuff off. I'm not. I'm going to use what's here to help support this here and give it a nice even look to it, because this here just goes up and down, in and out like a dog's stomach. I have an idea for that. You might find that interesting. But first off, I got to get all this straightened away up here. Anyway, this is where we're going to leave this one. I hope the tips are good, and until next time.